Introduction to the 12 Universal Laws of Success. So let's talk about laws of success. This guy, Dr. Herbert Harris, wrote a book called The 12 Universal Laws of Success. Now, if you're like me, your first curmudgeon question is, who says these are laws? So I've got to start with the fact that people want other people to wholeheartedly believe in or buy into what they say. So they call their teachings laws. I naively used to think that these were irrefutable and unchangeable and set in stone, so to speak, like the Ten Commandments. That's not true. Laws can change. We found that out in the United States recently, and in all sorts of interpretations. Napoleon Hill has a law of success, Marcus Aurelius has rules, etc., etc. So I was surprised to see in Amazon pretty much everybody puts a number, because that's the magic thing, is to list a number, and then they call them laws of whatever they want to say later. 12 laws to be the best doctor, 12 laws to be the best salesperson, etc. So we could spend even more time on semantics, but I think that what Dr. Harris gives us is a structured plan for success, just like Napoleon Hill does and other authors do. So we can learn from this plan no matter what we want to call it. I'm just going to list the laws today and then see how much time is left so I can talk about the stages of life. His laws are the law of thought, the law of change, the law of vision, the law of command, the law of human magnetism, the law of focus, the law of action, the law of value, the law of relationships, the law of supply, the law of persistence, and the law of truth. Now, I'm not going to go over every single one of these with you because many of them are things you've heard from Brian Cain or Dr. Gilbert or other people that you follow, but I think there's going to be important points that I can pick out in the next week or two, and I'm also going to give you an update on my training. The important thing is that a key to a successful life is to realize that living is a learned habit and acquired skill. You have to keep learning and growing in order to achieve any form of success. The first realization is that life is a garden and you're the gardener. The second realization is that every action, including inaction, has a definite result. The third realization of life is that all things have a season. And the fourth realization of life is there's only two forces at work in the universe. He says the forces of good and evil. I prefer positive and negative. There are 4 stages of life. The first stage is education. The second stage is the stage of emotion, sensation, and experience. That's where your habits will make or break you. The third stage is the stage of power, where you perfect your ability to make things happen. And the fourth stage is a stage of immortality, when you look more at what you can give to the universe, whether you fulfilled your life purpose. The law of thought. Let's talk about the law of thought. This is the first of the 12 universal laws of success. It's from a book titled The 12 Universal Laws of Success by Herbert Harris. This is an interesting law because we always hear about how thoughts are things, or thoughts become things, or we become what we think about. But that's only part of it. Your thoughts are important, but where do they really come from? They come from your heart, how you really feel about things. For instance, you may have a goal of financial independence, and you do your visualizations, make your goal and a plan and everything else you've been taught. But then nothing happens. Why? You have to dig deep, and how often do I tell you that? What are your true inner feelings about your worth? For example, if you feel unworthy of love, you probably won't get financial independence. Why? Because your brain hears the word unworthy, not unworthy of love. It'll then proceed to block your effort. The law of thought has 2 aspects. There's the rational aspect, which is the actual statement of the thought or idea, and then there's the emotional aspect, the personal feelings and emotions associated with the thought. And before I get lambasted by the motion creates emotion people, I'm not talking about your everyday, I don't feel like it emotions. I'm talking about those feelings and emotions from early childhood. The 3 areas involved in this law of thought are your self-image, which is thoughts about yourself, attitude, which is your thoughts about others, and your outlook on life, which is thoughts about the world in general. Everything you experience is filtered through the image you hold of yourself. You attract thoughts, people, and experiences that are congruent with how you think and feel about yourself. That's why the law of attraction pundits get bad names. They don't go deep enough. You can't just start saying affirmations and visualizations and have $1 million or a 50-pound weight loss manifested in your life tomorrow or next week or whatever. 3 things affect your self-image. First is the most important. Thoughts, emotions, and feelings that were developed probably by the age of 7. Then there's the environment and association. The first 7 years of your life are where you learn and develop emotions and feelings of multiple things: fear and reward, pain and pleasure, love and lack of love, guilt, blame, shame, etc. Young children have no defenses and no ability to discern what's true and not true. Whatever they're exposed to goes straight into their subconscious, and that's the operating system of their own internal computer. It spits out their personal values and beliefs. And guess what? It's just what it says. It's your operating system. Once your self-image has been established, you can't just run another app to change it. It takes work. So here's 5 signs of a poor self-image, and I've had them all. Putting the blame on someone else, running away from your problem, criticizing other people constantly, waiting for someone else to solve your problems, and pretending everything is okay. The law of change and the law of vision. Let's talk about the law of change and the law of vision. You're not locked into whatever circumstances or situations or challenges that exist in your life right now. You can change, and the way you do it is to put a new thought, a new state of consciousness into your mind. You change your thinking and you change the frame of reference about yourself. Both of those are necessary. And just one little comment. Remember I said you can change by putting a new thought into your mind? They often call metaphysics new thought. That's much different than new age. And that's what I grew up calling it, was new thought. Anyway, you've heard people say, change your thinking, change your life. Well, that's what this law is about. There's 3 components to this law. The first is faith. Faith is a firm belief or trust in something or someone, generally for which there's no objective evidence. So you must have faith that you can change and that change is possible. No matter how overwhelmed your situation appears, you have to have the faith that it can change. If you have doubts, no matter what you do, you'll sabotage yourself. The second component is choice. Not making a choice is actually making a choice. I'm sure Dr. Gilbert and others say that all the time. You have to identify and specifically define what a better life means to you, not to someone else, but to you. Then you must choose to pursue this better life and make the changes in your thinking and acting in order to bring it about. The third component is desire, and Napoleon Hill talks about this burning desire quite a bit, and you can look up his work if you'd like. Unless there's a deep hunger, a burning desire for the changes you want to bring about in your life, the changes won't happen. So again, that's faith, choice, and desire. Obstacles to change are fear of change, often couched as the fear of unknown, but you have to have total faith that you can change. Fear of criticism, and Dr. Gilbert talks about this all the time. Don't worry about what other people say, think, or do. And fear of failure. The fear of failure makes you find rational excuses for not trying. So the bottom line is you can change your condition by changing your thinking about 1, yourself, 2, your condition, and 3, about the people with whom you associate. That's briefly the law of change. The law of vision is something you hear about all the time with visualization, so I'm just going to mention it. Your vision of the life you'd like must be crystal clear in your mind, and then you can internalize it through your senses. That makes it stronger and makes you harmonize with the universe. And this is where goals come in, and he talks a lot about goal setting and all the stuff that we've talked about, everybody talks about. So that's law 2 is the law of change, and law 3 is the law of vision. The law of command. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. This is from the book of Job. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. And this leads us to the law of command, which is also called the law of affirmation. To affirm means to declare or state positively, to make a statement confidently declaring it to be true. The key words here are confidently, declare, and true. If you want to eliminate financial challenges, for example, the first step is to change your thinking about your financial situation. You affirm repeatedly, I am financially secure. What this does is to condition your thinking and stimulate your feelings. You have to internalize this affirmation in your feeling nature. You can't continually affirm, I am financially secure, if deep in your heart you feel unworthy. This is doubt, and that's the main obstacle for successfully using affirmations to bring about changes in your life. Remember, this law works both positively and negatively. If your affirmations aren't working, it's probably because of negative affirmations in and from your subconscious. Those are things like, I can't do it, I know this won't work for me. These negative affirmations tend to come from how you think about yourself subconsciously. They focus your thoughts on the negative outcomes, and these negative outcomes manifest as failure, lack, limitation, ill health, etc. This is why, although affirmations are an essential component for success, they are just that, a component. None of these laws can bring about your desired change all by themselves. I've told you how my mentor told me to start saying, everything always works out for me. This was back in 1985 or 86. When I did, I felt like a phony and as if I was just wasting my time. It took a long time and a lot of inner work before I realized it was true. But it became a core belief. Part of that inner work I did was looking at my life objectively. I had to get out the broom and sweep away the emotions of those memories and just look at the facts. Once I did that, it was as if I had used Windex. Before, I was driving down the road, barely able to see the road ahead of me. You know how you bend over and try and see out of a little space. There were streaks of mud and grime all over my windshield, obstructing and distorting my view. Once I sprayed the Windex on the windshield and then put some muscle into scrubbing the muck away, I could see clearly. And guess what? I realized that everything had always worked out for me in the past, so why shouldn't it in the future? Although people write these cute little books telling you how to change your life, it's not easy at all. You have to go way back, and most of all, you have to eliminate the emotional smog so you can see what you've been thinking and then change it. After all, how can you change something if you don't know what it is to begin with? That's the hard part. A lot of people don't want to look deep. They're afraid of what they'll see, and I understand that, believe me. I found this one in his book and I liked it. Today is the most magnificent day of my life. The law of attraction. This is the law of attraction. You know by now that none of these laws operate alone. I will say, though, that it's because of the law of attraction that the concepts of metaphysics or New Thought have gotten worldwide attention. The movie The Secret brought this law to the surface for the entire world to see. But not unexpectedly, it also received a bad name because it didn't always work out, and it sure didn't always work the way it did in the movie. After just this week, you know why. So let's take a deeper look at this law. Basically, it says you attract what you are, and you are what you think most of the time. Life is lived from the inside out. Whatever the vision of your desired life experience, it will only manifest when you feel in your innermost feelings that you're worthy of it. If your inner thoughts and feelings are not in harmony with each other, there will be inner tension, and it'll be reflected in your attitude. How you feel is more powerful than what you think. Remember, this is your deep inner feelings, those feelings that developed a long, long time ago, not just this morning because you stayed out late last night or had a fight with your spouse. The negative thinker's feelings are centered usually on fear and doubt. There's 6 basic fears, and Napoleon Hill talks about this, so you probably know them. Fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and fear of death. These are coupled with indecision and doubt, and when they hold you hostage, every thought and vision you have in your conscious mind is neutralized, and your results will be in harmony with your fears, not your thoughts. Realize that all fears are simply states of mind, and since you can control your mind, you can control your fears. Worry is a negative state of mind that works slowly but persistently, destroying your initiative, self-confidence, and reasoning faculty. How well have you ever reasoned when you were worried about something? It's a form of continuous fear caused by indecision or uncertainty with respect to the outcome of a specific situation, event, or circumstance. To eliminate worry, you have to change your attitude towards its cause. Change your attitude by changing your thinking about what is causing you to worry. Replace negative thought and feelings of indecision, fear, and doubt with positive thoughts and feelings based on your understanding, your faith, and your courage. To eliminate worry, realize that most of the things you worry about will not happen. 2, determine the worst possible outcome of the situation you're worried about. 3, resolve to accept the worst if it happens. 4, proceed to improve upon the worst by concentrating on the positive aspects of the situation. 5, review your life experiences, especially those which have worked for you in the past. Concentrate on the lessons you learned that may help here. Each success builds your faith and confidence. 6, practice living one day at a time. Not easy, but it's doable. 7, don't cross the bridge until you get there. Don't waste energy on the things that may never appear. The law of focus. Understanding, knowledge, and wisdom comes through what you see, that to which you give your attention. So let's talk about the law of focus. To be focused means to exert such self-control that no one and nothing can deter or distract you from your goals and your vision. This should remind you of one of my favorite situation-specific mantras, and I'll use finishing Vol State this year as my example. I've given you this before, but here we go again. Nothing and no one can interfere with my finishing the 2026 Vol State race in time, not even myself. So the focus here is on finishing. It's specific. I want to finish, but I want to finish in time, and it's this year, 2026, that I'm talking about. The most important part is the last, not even myself. We've talked so much about self-sabotage. Wherever you place your focus, your thoughts and emotions and events will follow. When I was starting to ride my bicycle again when I was in my 40s, I would always hit the pebbles in the road, and then I learned that was because I was looking at the pebbles and hoping I'd miss them. Someone told me to look at the space where there were no pebbles, and that's where my bike would go. Even though I thought this was bogus, I did it, and guess what? It worked. So too in life does it work. If you focus on a problem rather than the solution, you'll never overcome or solve it. If you focus on solving the problem, the solution will appear. And this, though, requires faith in yourself and your abilities. If you want to lose weight, you have to figure out what you really want. You don't want to lose weight if that means you have to develop some illness. What you really want, perhaps, is to be healthy. Then ask yourself if you believe that you can be healthy. Then you'll figure out the ways to achieve that. Maybe you think that by losing weight you'll be more attractive, and that's what you really want, to be more attractive. That's completely different than just taking pounds off. You have to go deep into what's behind your superficial statement. So how do you overcome the lack of focus? 1. Realize that you can only focus on one thing at a time. 2. Be in good health, be physically fit and full of energy. 3. Have clearly defined goals which complement your vision and life purpose. Without the goals, there's no direction or thought on which to focus your attention. 4. Have faith in yourself and your abilities. See how this is such an important and recurrent theme? Faith gives you the power to focus. 5. Realize that all distractions are equal and equally counterproductive. 6. Control your body, instincts, and emotions. Why do you lose focus? Because there are saboteurs within. They're the distractions, discouragement, distrust, doubt, indecision, procrastination, apathy. You neutralize these things by constantly focusing on your goals, vision, and purpose. Start with self-discipline, and that begins with your thoughts. Practice this. Don't expect miracles right away. A discipline is something that takes time and work to develop. But be aware of the things that get in your way, especially the distractions. The law of action and the law of value. The law of action and the law of value. Let's see if I can get both of these in these 3 minutes. The law of action is the law that governs the manner or method of performing the activities of your life. It's the methodology by which the principles of success are implemented on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. This law encompasses your behavior, conduct, habits, and method of operation. It's the operating process, like an operating system, by which your thoughts and feelings become the things and experience of life. There's nothing I've talked about or that Dr. Gilbert talks about that will work without action. So how to overcome obstacles? To change obstacles, you must change your attitude towards the particular situation. Eliminate the word obstacle and problem from your vocabulary. Substitute the word situation. Every experience you encounter is a situation. It may be positive or it may be negative, but it's a situation. Let's take these 9 steps. 1. Write it down. Write a precise statement of the situation to be resolved. State what it is and what it isn't. Once you clarify the situation, its solution starts running towards you. 2. Analyze the situation from all possible angles. Identify all aspects, especially those elements that you can fix quickly. 3. List all alternative solutions. Write each possible solution as completely as possible. 4. Evaluate all the possible solutions. Determine which ones will help and which ones will harm yourself or others. 5. Determine if your solution or choice is a selfish one. If it helps only you or hurts others, it probably will end up being more trouble than it's worth. 6. Picture the consequences. Carry each possible solution to its logical conclusion. See those end results clearly and in detail. 7. Get advice, but make the decision on your own. 8. Stick to your decision until new facts warrant a change, not just that it isn't working in the time you want it to. 9. Put your decision into action immediately. Don't procrastinate. The law of value is also called the law of value and mutual exchange. It covers the interactions that take place on different levels of consciousness. Don't waste the things that are important to you on people, places, or things that are beneath your level of consciousness. Essentially, this just says thoughts are the blueprint for your reality. Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss places and things, small minds discuss other people. Don't waste time on thoughts, people, or actions which are not worthy. Don't waste thoughts on ideas that are not worthy. Don't waste your energies on activities which are not worthy, and don't waste your money on that which is not worthy. It's more of an esoteric law, but it does fit in here, and he goes into great depth on it. I'm not going to do that. The law of relationships and the law of supply. The law of relationships and the law of supply. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on relationships because it's pretty simple. There are 4 basic types of relationships. Relationship with God or a higher power, relationship with self, relationship with others, and relationships with things. To be successful, you have to cultivate good and positive relationships. I'm going to deviate a bit from Dr. Harris's book here because I believe the 2 most important relationships you need to improve are the ones with ourselves and with things. To me, you can't get anywhere you want unless and until you master your relationship with yourself. This will affect your self-image and your attitude, and that is what other people pick up on. You must know yourself. What do they say? To thine own self be true? And you can't be true if you don't know yourself. And I mean really know yourself. You have to get over the fear of facing what's going on inside of you. That's the only way you'll know how to improve and learn to believe in yourself so that others will believe in you. The relationship you have with things is also crucial. Do not be a slave to things. They can be lost as easily as gained. So examine your relationships with things. On to the law of supply. I think it's a key concept that's all too often overlooked. If you get nothing else out of these calls, get this. Everything necessary for abundant life is ever present and always available. Opportunity is infinite. There's an endless supply of whatever you need wherever you are. Why do so many people live in poverty? Because they don't know this law or the others, and they've been taught about poverty. To obtain health, wealth, and happiness that you desire, look within yourself for thoughts and ideas that are in harmony with health, wealth, and happiness. Then you have to take the action. Do your work to eliminate worry, fear, and doubt. Keep your thoughts centered on the vision in your mind and believe in that vision. You have to also have faith in your ability to do what it takes to realize the vision. Scarcity, lack, and limitation exist only in your mind. You should think abundance, imagine abundance, feel abundance, and believe in abundance. You can't just say, I am filled with abundance, or I have abundance in my life. You have to believe it and be specific as to what it means to you, develop a plan to gain it, and then act on it and not give up. Opportunity is a favorable combination of circumstances in a particular endeavor. The negative thinker sees the door to an opportunity as an impassable obstacle, and they turn away from it, convinced, oh, I can't do that. There's never a lack of opportunity. How you perceive an opportunity depends on your level of consciousness. If you have a low level of consciousness centered on the material world of facts and appearances, then your perception of an opportunity is limited by those same facts and circumstances. Every circumstance you experience in life is an opportunity for completion and growth. The law of persistence and the law of truth. We finish up the 12 laws of success today. If you've stuck with me for the past week and a half, you'll know the basics for leading a successful life, and you can start to develop your plan as soon as you identify your vision. Today we'll finish up with the law of persistence and the law of truth. The law of persistence is just as you'd expect, and as you know from listening to Dr. Gilbert all the time. It simply says, if you persist in doing the right things, you'll get the right result. Persistence must be combined with intelligence, though. The saying, if at first you don't succeed, then try again, needs to be modified to say, try again in different and better ways. Persistence is the expression of your will to win, to overcome. Your will gives you the power to persist when all indications and appearances say you cannot win. The obstacles to persistence are the fear of criticism, fear of failure, and the habit of procrastination. So how do you develop the habit of persistence? 1. Have a clearly defined internalized vision of your purpose. 2. Analyze your vision and develop specific goals. 3. Have a definite plan expressed in continuous action. 4. Have a friendly alliance, a mastermind, with one or more people who encourage you to follow through. 5. Decide once and for all that failure is just a temporary pause, not a destination. 6. Realize that something for nothing is an illusion. 7. Stop wishing your life away. And 8. Do it now. The law of truth is simply your basic understanding of the universe, the laws and principles by which it operates, and how you fit into that universe. I'm just going to summarize the ways to master the power of truth, and that's with these 12 universal laws that we've just studied. 1. The law of thought. You become what you think about most of the time. 2. The law of change. You change your life by changing your thinking. 3. The law of vision. What you see clearly in your thoughts is what you get in your life experience. 4. The law of command. What you say is what you get. 5. The law of human magnetism, or the law of attraction. Like attracts like. 6. The law of focus and discipline. Keep your eye on the prize, and all distractions are equal and equally counterproductive. 7. The law of action. Be the most effective at doing what has to be done. 8. The law of value. Invest your time, thoughts, energy, and money wisely and effectively. 9. The law of relationship. Treat others as you like to be treated. 10. The law of supply. There's always enough of what you need. 11. The law of persistence. Never quit. 12. The law of truth. The truth shall make you free, and that is success. Sit back and ask yourself what you've learned in just 27 minutes. That's all we took for this. If you study and apply these principles, you'll be surprised at all you can achieve.